Howdy, 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 my name is Anashi Sasuke, and welcome back to Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. In the last episode, we read about, tooth fairies and weird hallways and nightmares that kill the scientists that are studying said nightmares. And this one we're going to start with scar tissue, and we're going to go up through the death pen. And in there's also the mentally mutating straitjacket, the anti-aging placebo, and the memory-stealing drugs. So this ought to be an interesting episode, if nothing else. Let's see, scar tissue is Euclid. SCP-481 is currently contained in Sector 25, in a specially designed dormitory for the affected subjects. The dormitory is built to modify D-class specifications, with space for 2 occupants at this point, based on the spread of the scar tissue. Besides the standard sleeping quarters, there is a living space for each accessible through an outer isolation room. Subjects are allowed written and recorded entertainment that is available from local sources and does not violate containment procedures. No excessive funds are to be spent on this. Subjects are allowed visits to the outer facility and external walled gardens for no more than 3 hours per day, supervised by 2 Level 2 security personnel. Cameras are installed in the dormitories and are to be monitored by 1 Level 2 security personnel at all times. Subjects should not be prevented from self-harm, except for in cases of corresponding large-scale violence and blank. Full-body restraints are authorized in this case under the supervision of a trained medical team. Description: 481 was originally a clustered pattern of scars roughly corresponding to a variably partial map of blank India, appearing on 481-1, formerly Ms. something something something. Since at least 1990 something, 481 has since spread to 2, formerly Agent Blanks, the Addendum 1. When SCP-481 first manifested on 1, it appeared as a small series of crisscrossing scars that has been found to correspond to the neighborhood of blank and blank. While it is still not readily apparent why this town is being mapped, the sympathetic effects of the scars and city are readily apparent. The scars are a perfect recreation of the town. Streets and alleys appear as straight scars resembling lacerations made with a dull cutting instrument. Buildings are represented by scar nodes. A small canal flowing through the town is represented by a jagged scar across the abdomen of 1. The growth of new scars corresponds to the expansion of the already overcrowded town/city, including slums set up on unofficial roads. Described as very painful by both 1 and 2, the effect is not limited to growth. Any demolitions leads to a severely painful scouring of the corresponding scar patterns. Scars currently cover 100% of the skin, including the scalp of 1, and approximately 47% of the skin of 2 from the shoulders to the lower torso, including both arms. 1 has shown tendencies to self-harm since her incarceration. Any scars left by this faded completely within 20 days and did not correspond to the changes in the city architecture. It was therefore believed that the self-inflicted scars were merely an expression of 1's frustration with her containment. This has since been proven inaccurate by Incident 1. Addendum 1. When 1 ran out of skin for the scars to expand to, it was believed that the expansion events were over. Within a week, scars began appearing on 2. He was immediately quarantined along with 1 and has since been under our observation. 2 had a history of dealing with the data expunged before coming to the Foundation just as 1 did. Whether this connection is the key to 2 becoming the new focus for the scars is currently under investigation. Incident 1. On blank 2000-something, 1 attempted suicide by an improvised plastic blade drawn across the wrist. At the same time, the now infamous riots in blank India had reached the peak of their violence. 1 was immediately attended to and stabilized while the riots lasted for several days. The source of the riots was later traced to 2 neighborhoods corresponding with the part of the scar pattern covering 1's wrists. Addendum 2. Further investigation led to similar ongoing reports of violence and petty crime from neighborhoods mapped out on the portion of the body associated with repeated self-harm. Tests were performed to determine whether the damage to the scar pattern caused corresponding violence in blank. Searchers made several incisions to parts of the scars corresponding with blank's business district. No effect was noted. It is hypothesized that the self-inflicted damage is a compulsory response to violence and other crime in the city. Self-harm appears to be inflicted on parts of the body associated with high crime neighborhoods. On blank 2000-something, after 2 attempted to remove a portion of his upper arm during a string of murders in the corresponding neighborhood, current procedures involving full-body restraints were adopted. Testing. Test 1. An elaborate and carefully choreographed fight was staged between 12 locally hired stuntmen. Result: 1 did not deviate in any way from her normal routine. As suspected, mere overtures of violence are not sufficient to trigger a response. Test 2. Preconditions done. Action. Actual fights were instigated between researchers and locals in a very close area, leading to violence among at least 23 people. While there were no fatalities, several locals were injured due to their lack of formal training in hand-to-hand combat. Test result, one began to scratch vigorously at her lower back, and the area of scars corresponding to the location of the fight, drawing a small amount of blood. Okay, I see no reason to instigate a full-scale riot. I think we get the picture. Test 3. Preconditions. 1 was fully restrained to determine what effect denying her compulsions had. Action. After arming a small group of local malcontents, MTF-481 obtained permission from the local authorities to deal with them. MTF-481 made quick work of the poorly trained force. Test result. 1 became visibly uncomfortable and demanded several times to be allowed out of her restraints. Blood pressure was recorded as elevated, and EEG showed a sharp increase in the amount of electrical activity in the brain. Is it the stress causing those reactions or the violence? Preconditions. 1 was fully restrained to determine what effect denying her compulsions had. Action. Mobile researcher Blank proceeded to torture Disposable Dude 5999 with various implements, finishing with him after 3 hours. 1 shook violently for the entire 3 hours before appearing to have a tonic-clonic seizure, followed by a cessation of her vitals. She was successfully revived. Very interesting. Her blood pressure was way up, her heart was arrhythmic, and her brain's electrical activity was still spiking after that. It appears that the scale of the violence is not so important as, to some degree, the brutality. Still, until we better understand what's so damn important about this city, we're not going to lose our only clue to heart failure. Testing is suspended. Okie dokie. Next up is the mentally mutating straitjacket. I hope that's not what they used on the lady. It's Euclid. SCP-482 was recovered from during an experiment being conducted by Dr. Bright, of course it was, at Blank. After initial containment, 482 was turned over to Dr. Blank for documentation and analysis. Dr. Bright and Dr. Blank are to be notified immediately should there be any changes to 482 or duplicates found. While it is not being tested, 482 is to be stored in Containment Locker Blank, located at Site Blank. Access to the locker is restricted to Level 2 personnel and above. Such access and all activities thereafter are to be logged and recorded within 24 hours of completion. The maximum time limit for testing of 482 is 1 hour after mutations manifest. All subjects who have reached or exceeded this point while in contact with 482 are to be immediately terminated. Before autopsy and disposal, 482 is to be recovered first and separated from the subject's body. Localized thermal cleansing protocol is then to be performed on the body after autopsy, and any biological samples or personnel deemed contaminated by the subject. What that says to me is basically, torch the motherfuckers until they no longer exist. That being said, I hope there's cursing in this video later on, otherwise I just put down the only cursing it'll have. SCP-482 is a black leather straitjacket of similar make to the Blank brand. There's brands of straitjackets? Huh. Although the jacket seems to be made for the medium size, testing has shown that it can fit most body sizes. Subjects with larger body types report, however, that they feel compressed or suffocated while wearing it. I mean, yeah, if it's medium size and you're 2XL and they put you in there, it's gonna hurt. Like wearing a corset if you're 200 pounds. The words made in Shaoyan, China, hand wash only, no Asarenja powder, are present on the manufacturer's tag in faded text. Neither the factory nor the term that exists on any known records. Finally, while there are no obvious signs of wear and tear on the object, or the item, there are several small cuts on the straps. Analysis has shown that these could not have been inflicted by anyone wearing 482. Testing has shown that while immune to any damage due to body changes occurred by the subject, it can be damaged by external forces as normal for an object of this material. Further destructive testing of 482 has been suspended due to the lack of viable duplicates. 482 has 2 known effects occurring in a linear fashion once the item is worn. These have been identified as time points alpha and beta. Experiments have shown that while the effects of time point alpha fade after loss of contact with 482, those inflicted by beta are permanent. Time point alpha refers to the initial stage of exposure to 482. This exposure time lasts a varied period between 1 to 6 hours that a subject wears 482. This item can be removed before alpha elapses completely without ill effect. During this period, the subject feels mentally better. Any mental afflictions that what the subject possesses, regardless of degree or intensity, are negated completely. Any medication being taken by the subject has its effects completely negated as well. Foundation standard psychological tests return results consistent with a baseline normal, mentally stable individual. Upon separation of the subject of 482, the mental illnesses return in full force, along with the side effects of any medication. Multiple sessions wearing 482 have continued effect, though any time in this The suit contributes to the overall cumulative time until the subject reaches time point beta. Time point beta refers to the subsequent time period that passes if a subject is still wearing 482 once alpha lapses. During this period, the subject experiences physical mutation that seems to be determined by the nature of their mental disorder. Should the subject have multiple mental illnesses, the mutations will manifest according to their degree of their strength. See Experiment Log 482 for records of physical mutations observed during testing. We're not going to do that. Next up is the anti-aging placebos, which are safe. SCP-483 needs no special containment other than to prevent use outside of authorized testing. 1 is not to be administered to subjects for whom there exist living humans outside the Foundation who are significantly acquainted with the subject and aware of the subject's age. Under no circumstances is 1 to be administered to those known by overseers. If 1 is to be administered to a subject in a quantity in excess of their original age, see Addendum B, or that might be Addendum Beta, I'm not sure. All documents detailing and suggesting the test should exclude any and all information about the subject in question, especially the proposed original age to be tested. Information recorded from and for these test subjects should not be taken from the subject directly, but rather from a clone of the subject created using 222, using a double-blind procedure. I don't remember what 222 was, it's been a while. Until all tablets designated for the test have been successfully administered. In cases where the subject is a 222 clone created for this test, the recommended procedure, the original may be used for initial records. Description: 483 is a standard orange prescription bottle filled with up to 50 spherical gray tablets, SCP-483-1. The label indicates that it was issued to a Sherman David A. And in place of a prescription name, the label reads anti-aging. Or anti-aging, what have you. The remainder of the label has been torn off. Analysis of the tablets show that they are chemically identical to placebos. When 1 is ingested by an organism possessing a stomach capable of digesting medication, its effects takes place. All existing memories, documents, and records regarding the organism's age are altered, decreasing the organism's recorded age by 1 full year. All numerical values / memories relative to the organism's age are altered correspondingly. The ingesting organism displays no biological change, apart from the aforementioned memory adjustment. Medical pills or tablets of any kind which are placed in 483 become 1. Individuals affected by 1 will remember accurately how many years have passed since certain events in their lives, excepting the ingesting subject's date of birth. Affected individuals may be convinced that their interpretation of the subject's age is wrong and revise it. Further ingestion of 1 by the original subject will reduce the revised age. So that sounds like, before I continue, that sounds like what it does is, since it's called the anti-aging placebos, it doesn't actually age the person backwards. It makes everybody think that they aged backwards. Interesting. It has the placebo effect on their anti-aging rather than their actually being in the anti-aging. So, SCP-483 was recovered from the home of Blankety Blank after wide discrepancies were reported between his medical records and physical condition with regards to his age. Blank's official documents, as well as his nearby relatives and friends, reported that he was 8 years old, though they could recall events involving him over a decade ago. A blank-year-old newspaper story listing his name corroborated this discrepancy. His physical stature development showed that he was at least 20 years of age, and his growth rate was that of a normal human. Upon confiscation and discovery of the effect of 1, subject was terminated and his records corrected. Addendum B. If 1 is ingested in a quantity greater than an organism's original age, the organism loses all memory aside from functional memory, skills, language, etc. All existing recorded information regarding the subject vanishes, and all who knew the subject lose any and all memories regarding the subject. When questioned as to past events having involved the subject, affected individuals simply note there having been another person or a stranger present. Note: I've always been paranoid about mimetic and mind-altering effects. Lucky for me, my countermeasures saved my memory from the overdose. Unfortunately, however, I have lost my clearance, seniority, staff, awards, retirement date, and the opportunity to have my aging mother ever recognize me again. Fixing at least some of these problems would be simple, that is, if anyone knew who the hell I was! That's the last time I get a rookie to draw up an experimental procedure for me, god damn it. Dr. Blast. Note: Dr. Blast, please refrain from using official documentation as a medium to voice complaint. That you're 2 weeks old is no excuse, Dr. Blank. I wonder who said that if they know who he was. Also, why was he taking the anti-aging placebos? Why would the doctors take the SCP? That's dumb. Now let's check out the memory-stealing drug. This just seems to be a whole lot of messed up things in the 480s. They're safe, but they're messed up. We got scar tissue that if people try to self-harm themselves, they make bad things happen in a city, or vice versa. I think it's bad things happening in the city makes them self-harm themselves. The mentally mutating straitjacket, which heals them from mental illnesses until they take it off. The anti-aging placebos, which doesn't actually do anything to their age, it just makes everyone forget that that time period existed. And now we have the memory-stealing drug, culminating in the death pen. So let's check out and then there's this skin here. And then it seems to even out a little bit after that. But first we gotta read about that memory-stealing drug. All samples of 484 reserved for testing must be secured in Pharmaceutical Locker AG blank. This testing pool should include at least 20 doses of any particular form of 484, or 50% if fewer samples exist. All other samples are currently stored in Secure Storage Locker 112 blank. All personnel of clearance level 3 and below must have written authorization from a level 4 staff member to access 484. Any staff member currently researching 484 may not interact with any O5 personnel until the conclusion of their research and a thorough toxicology screening and search of their office space and home. If any staff member of any security level is found to have appropriated 484 without authorization or outside experimental parameters, they are to be reprimanded and reassigned with the stolen 484 returned to containment. I'm surprised they don't just terminate them. That seems like what they usually do. SCP-484 is a pharmaceutical of unknown origin originally discovered in use as a street drug in urban areas throughout the world. Interrogations of dealers has put a tentative first release around June 2000-something in blank Norway. As with most street drugs, the physical form of 484 varies greatly from sample to sample. It is generally found in pill form, though there are at least two types that have been powders within a rapidly dissolving gel pack. Reports of a transdermal patch were received, but no samples have been obtained to date. 484 has a number of street names, with the most common being V, Vic, Vike, Viker, and Care, each revolving around the word vicarious. Phrasal slang includes any mention of memories or remembering, and name codes uses V names like Victor or Vivian. Unlike most street drugs, all samples of 484 are nearly chemically identical. Most illegal drugs vary by manufacturer and contain impurities and additives, but other than cosmetic appearance, 484 samples are identical. The only explanation for this is that all samples come from the same source. Why there is such cosmetic variation is unknown, though researchers believe it is to disguise 484 as a simple street drug. This also explains how a pharmaceutical with the level of sophistication demonstrated by 484 reached the open market, almost at Marticle, without precursors or public notice in its development. All known organizations capable of manufacturing it are being investigated in order to determine the source. The logo seen on many iterations of 484 is a tilted square with 8 dots within, though no companies with similar logos are anywhere near capable of producing such a chemical. The dealer questioned in Interrogation Report 484-A33 seemed genuinely unaware of the drug's origin, despite repeated and vigorous methods of interrogation. When ingested, 484 is absorbed and causes the brain to produce a chemical compound previously unknown. Researchers have named the compound blank blank. The compound is extremely volatile and breaks down almost immediately if extracted from the brain. Subjects experience rapid increasing brain activity and pupil dilation. When a subject exposed to 484 makes eye contact with an unaffected person, a form of telepathic connection will be established between the two subjects. The subject having ingested 484 will begin to experience hallucinations of the other subject's memories. The degree of vividness and duration of these hallucinations increases with the amount of 484 taken. The unexposed subjects enters a semi-hypnotic state. Repeated use of 484 builds a familiarity with the hallucinations, and certain subjects have been able to move through a subject's memory at will, similar to a lucid dreamer altering a dream. At higher dosages, the victims begin to lose the memories test subjects described viewing, forgetting all or part of the memory. This memory loss was accompanied by intense migraines and psychological trauma, chiefly feelings of loss and violation, though the subjects were unable to describe what exactly was lost. It was later revealed that a subject using 484 at high doses actually appropriates the memories and adds them into his or her own memories. There seems to be no limit to the number of memories a subject can absorb, and existing memories are not overwritten. This data is corroborated by Interrogation Report 44A33, though all answers from this report must still remain suspect. Testing allowed several subjects to have their memories from childhood to present completely erased and absorbed by other test subjects. Those absorbing the memories reported initial discomfort and confusion by the double memories, but all those absorbed seem as real and personal as the subject's original memories. These memories seem to be maintained as long as the subject's memory is not damaged by some other chemical or trauma. The risk 44 poses to information security is high, and as such, its tight regulation is vital. Research is ongoing into using 44 in multiple fields. If properly controlled, it can be used to extract unwanted memories of security breaches or traumatic experiences. Permission is currently pending for use of 44 with various memetic hazards. Priority is given to experiments concerning 44's use in advanced espionage and information security. Addendum, excerpt from the interrogation report. Interrogator Dr. Blank, assisted by Agent Blank, Supervisor Dr. Blank, Subject Blank, Crimson Andrew Blank, detained drug dealer from Blank, USA. So, you still maintain that you were never involved in the manufacture of this drug? Done told you that already. Indeed you have. Yet I remain unconvinced. Do you think another session with Agent Blank would change my mind? Fuck you! Do whatever you want, won't change anything. Just kill me already and get it over with. Well, now let's not get ahead of ourselves. Now please describe what it is like to use 484. When you drop Vike, man, it's like nothing else. I've tripped on anything I could get in my arm, up my nose, or down my gut, and nothing was ever like Vike. The hallucinations were more vivid. Sorta. It's not like that, though. When you're on a trip, you know it. You know, at least somewhere that the walls aren't really melting, you know? But on Vike, no matter how weird it gets, you know it's real. Everything you see, it's like you're doing it. And afterwards, it's like you've done it from the beginning. It doesn't bother me that I have to take it away from someone. It lets me have a better life. Better history. Better. Elaborate. Well, check this. You remember being a kid? How happy simple shit could make you? New toy, climbing a new tree, just playing, whatever. Well, if I can let you experience that again and again, and every time it's different, but it stays with you. How do you mean? Do you remember your 5th birthday? I don't see how that's relevant. Just, fuck, do you remember it or not? Yes, I do. How was it? Really don't. How the fuck was it? It was very nice. Yeah, usually are. You know how many 5th birthdays I've had? 38. I remember one where my dad, or some bitch's dad, really, but he's like my dad when I remember it. Not looks like my dad, but he's a big fat blank. But it's still like he's mine, you know? Anyway, my dad got me a fucking pony. Who really does that? It's a joke or something from TV. No one ever really does that, but my dad did. That's the purest joy I've ever felt. No jealousy, no fear, nothing tainting it, and no hangover afterwards. It's just pure, simple joy. How poetic. Yeah, it is. Especially since my real dad never gave me nothing but a good ass whoop when the beer ran out at night. With the Vike, I got 1,000 happy memories that make the bad ones less important. Gonna come in handy soon, I bet. How's that exactly? Well, when you people kill me, sure as hell ain't gonna be my shitty life flashing before my eyes. Okay. And that brings us to the death pen! Okay. I was about to ask whether or not it was going to be an actual pen or like a pig pen, but got my answer. It's one of those really bad looking retractable pens that banks have. I think it says advanced pharmaceuticals on it. It's safe though because it's just a pen. SCP-485 is to be kept in a locked safe deposit box at all times with the key to be kept in a secure location. It appears to be a standard retractable pen with an unusually easy to click button. The pen itself was accidentally stolen by Dr. Dahij upon renewing his life insurance policy. The pen once belonged to Agent Blank of Blank Life Insurance, Inc. Each time the pen's tip is extended, a random person known to the user dies by unknown cause. Since the button's action is abnormally smooth, subjects during testing were noted to rapidly click the pen without conscious thought or realization of what was happening. Initial discovery occurred upon Dr. Blank falling dead mid-sentence as Dr. Dahij was absently clicking his pen near his desk. Dahij called his wife only to discover no answer at normally reachable locations, including her place of employment. Supervisor Blank was found dead with a mildly surprised look on his face. Pen was given SCP status, testing to follow shortly. The pen's action was confirmed by a reclusive disposable dude who only knew 39 living people, all met since his internment at location blank blank home base. Said personnel successfully dispatched upwards of 90% of the remaining test subjects on hand, as they had all been selected from the same dormitory wing on base. Procedure for obtaining live testing personnel has been updated to require more randomization in the selection process. Addendum: due to Dr. Dahisha's recent personal tragedy involving nearly all his friends and family, 485 is hereby remanded to off-person custody in a locked safe deposit box. Note: at least he stopped that damn infernal clicking at all hours at his desk. Now people just stop crying. Dr. Bright. Dr. Bright sounds like a dick. I'm pretty sure he's also an SCP, because I saw that on the SCP Foundation subreddit that they were talking about him being an SCP. I don't know if I've read that yet though, so I'm gonna check. Dr. Bright. Okay. Maybe it's Dr. Bright? Bright? Yeah, I don't know. I guess he's not as SCP. Something. I don't know what the deal with that is. Let me scroll back down where I'm supposed to be though. So that about does it for this episode. In the next episode we're going to start with Code Leak Skin. I'm not sure how to say that, but we're going to start with that, and we're going to go up through Ice Cream Truck, which sounds festive and thus will probably be Keter, because that's just how that goes. The festive ones are almost always Keter. I don't make the rules, I just read them. So, this has been Anashi Sasuke. This is episode 107 of Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. If you liked it, a like and a subscribe will be groovy. If you didn't, you need to do either one of those things. And I will see y'all in the next one. Later.